BB, like so many dogs in America, enjoy their food. And BB is a little bit heavy, and when a dog is heavy, it causes a lot of different things. Fat in itself is inflammatory, and it may cause the joints to ache and the tissues to ache. Also, fat will pull down on the spine and on the legs and cause pain, and maybe cause the back to hurt more than it would normally, or the joints to hurt more than they would normally. So how do you tell if your dog is a little bit heavy? And
the body condition score looks like this. It goes from 1 to 9, and the skinnier dogs go from 1 to 4. Ideal dog is number 5, and the obese dogs go 6, 7, 8, 9. And the skinny dogs, you can see the ribs, you can see the backbone, you can see where the sternum tucks up into the flank, or where the abdomen tucks up into the flank. And the ideal dog, you can barely see the ribs, you can still see the abdomen tuck up into the flank. There's no hanging fat, there's no fat around the tail head. And in the obese dogs, you can't see the ribs, there's a lot of fat over them. The belly has a lot of fat, so it goes straight from the sternum through the flank, and it's almost horizontal, and there's lots of fat around the tail head, and that's how obese dogs are scored.
BB is more towards the 8 to 9 area, because we can't feel the ribs very easy. They are under there, but there's a good inch of fat there. The belly does not tuck into the back, it's more hanging down. And there's a lot of belly fat there, and there's fat over the ribs, and there's fat in the butt area. So this is what we call an obese or heavy dog. And it really affects our health, so it's important to try to get the weight off, and I'll talk to you a little bit about how that happens. A lot of people say that their dog is skinny, and actually their dog's a fairly ideal weight. Now this is skinny. You can see Rocky's ribs. We can see behind Rocky's ribs. We can see where Rocky's abdomen tucks into, where his abdomen goes up into his back legs. I'm sorry, Rocky. I'm sorry, buddy. Just stand for a minute. I know it's weird. So you can see just everything about Rocky's is skinny. His hips are sticking out, his spine's sticking out, his ribs are sticking out. In this case, it's because Rocky's tumor is preventing Rocky's from absorbing nutrients in an acceptable amount, so that Rocky's continues to break down his body's muscle to feed his body. And plus he just has no appetite because his stomach has a big ugly thing in it, and it's hard to eat when that happens. So Rocky would be on the other side of the scale that BB was. BB was on 8 to 9, so obese, and Rocky is on the real skinny side. So let's look and see what a dog looks like that's the average or ideal weight.
In this poor skinny dog, he's a 2 or 3 out of the ideal of 5. He's on the skinny sides with his ribs sticking out and his backbone sticking out.
So in Raven's case, Raven, look at the camera. The camera, there you go. In Raven's case, his weight is about ideal. Maybe on the slightly over ideal, but pretty close. What you look for is you can feel the ribs underneath a little bit of the fat pad. You can see how the ribs, how the belly tucks up into the hindquarters. You don't have a big wad of stuff down here. It's tucking up and going into the hindquarters. You can actually see the slight bulges of each rib, but they're not sticking out like they were in the skinny dog. Now when people see the bulges of those ribs, they think their dog needs to eat more. That's That's what happens in most dogs in America. This is good. You want to see the ribs a little bit. Dogs are not going to starve because they have a little bulge on the side. What happens is when they get obese, then their joints wear out faster, their spine wears out faster, their heart has a harder time pumping blood, they have a harder time breathing, just their body doesn't work as well. So this is what you want. You want a dog like Raven, who's a good character actor, and also isn't packing a bunch of weight.
So Raven's more of the ideal weight on the body condition score. He's a 5 out of a 9. And he's got his ribs have a light layer of fat. The abdomen tucks into the flanks very nicely. He's got no fat on the tail area. And he's a really in good shape. Did you know that dogs that are obese can lose 2 years of life? And if you keep them at the ideal weight, they'll feel a lot better and live a lot longer.
So if we were to revisit BB again after looking at Raven, then you could see that it's harder for me to. There's no bulges of the ribs, and I can feel the ribs under that much fat. The belly, as you can see, the belly goes from the sternum, which is the ribs, and then it goes down. It doesn't tuck up like that. It doesn't tuck up like it should. It goes down. It's a hanging sack of fat. And that is what makes a dog. That's how you can tell if your dog's obese. So look down. Some dogs that are boxy, if they're boxy, square shaped, sometimes they're their abdomen may not tuck in, it may go horizontal. But if your dog's goes down and distends, that distension isn't there for any reason other than your dog may be packing extra pounds. Now if we look back and we're going to talk about the butt, because that's what veterinarians do, you can see that if you felt around the tail, you can see that there's a lot of fat there. See this? And that's a good indication that your dog is obese too, because look at, as I push the tail up, there's fat here and there's fat on both sides. So little BB has this whole fat pad, not only underneath the abdomen, but up above and the hindquarters, that is also BB should lose. So I hope that gives you a better idea of what a skinny dog is and a fat dog. And remember, obese, weight challenged. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say fat because you're not fat, you're just weight challenged. But most people in America have dogs, about 40-something% of them are heavy, and it really contributes a lot to their health problems. If you want your dog to feel better from arthritis and they are heavy, the first thing you can do is drop some weight. This is Zoe. Zoe's a pug mostly and a Jack Russell terrorist cross. Oh, Zoe's got long legs for a pug, and that comes from the different breeds. And she's got, you can see, if we remember what we were talking about, her ribs, I can feel them easily. You can't see them, so she's not too skinny. You can feel them. Maybe she's got a touch more fat than she should or could, but this is about the normal weight, ideal weight for dogs. You can see that she's got her ribs tuck into her spine, so she's got some definition there. She does, obviously probably does some ab work. She's got her abdomen goes right up into her flanks. So remember on BB where the abdomen was kind of hanging down and she had a whole bunch of stuff hanging down the fat. Zoe doesn't. Zoe's abdomen goes up into her flanks, so you can see that. So that's a desirable angle for a dog. Also, if we look at Zoe's butt, I'm sorry Zoe, we didn't look at her too much. You can see that Zoe doesn't have a lot of fat there. Remember on BB when I squeezed, there was a lot of fat back here. Zoe's got a lean butt going on. She's got it going on, don't you, Zoe? Some people might say, in Zoe's case, that you can feel a rib and possibly even maybe see a bulge. Oh my goodness gracious, My dog is too skinny. This is a good weight. In fact, Zoe could even stand to lose a little bit if she wanted to. Zoe, what do you think? She says she's at a perfect weight. So how would you propose to take weight off eating? The first thing to do is cut the calories by 20%.
So if your dog has a weight problem, then you really have to cut the biscuits and treats, the high calorie treats, lots of fat in the diet. You have to maybe consider feeding lower calorie treat like vegetable, like baby carrots, or maybe a green beans, or maybe small pieces of apple. If you're going to feed meat from the table, make sure it doesn't have fat on it, a lot of fat on it, and make sure it's a lower fat type of piece of meat like a tuna fish or a lean piece of meat. Kibble has more calories per ounce than canned food, but you can actually dilute the calories in kibble. And there's a couple ways you can mix half of the kibble you'd normally feed, or the 20%, like I said, with water. Let it swell up. The dogs think they're getting more, and so they feel a little more satisfied. You can use chicken broth. Chicken broth will sometimes make it a little tastier, but make sure it's low fat. You can mix half the amount of kibble with green beans, and that makes a little kibble salad or canned food salad, and has a lot less calories than either one alone. Or you can just feed your dog canned food instead of kibble. Canned food it's a myth that it has more calories. Usually canned food, because it's got more water in it, has less calories, especially if you consider a lower fat variety. If your dog doesn't lose weight with all these things, then you can look at this chart from Dog Food Advisor, which is a great resource, dogfoodadvisor.com, and you can get a senior diet with less fat. So you can see dry food with 12% or less is better, is a lower fat, and will help a dog lose weight. And you can also see the same with canned and raw. But please get your dog a checkup, because some dogs have a medical condition that will cause them to keep the weight on, like hypothyroidism, where they just don't have enough thyroid hormone in the blood, and they just don't burn, their body doesn't burn calories very well, and they'll stay heavy. Or they might have another problem like Schnauzer hyperlipidemia, where they have a lot of circulating fat in the bloodstream. Remember, one of the biggest things you can do for any dog is get it out for a walk. Try to get your dog out every day if you can, but 2 or 3 times a week, even for 15 to 20 minutes, or you play ball with it, or do anything, get it to chase you around. That would be good for both of you. But if you can get dogs out to exercise, they'll develop more muscle, they'll burn more calories, and they'll start to feel better and look better, because that will help them stay healthier. If you have a chance, check out Dog Dish Diet. I do talk about some of this stuff in my book, Dog Dish Diet, and also Feed the Pet to Avoid the Vet. I show you how to home cook, or talk to you about home cooking, and how you can home cook some lower calorie foods. You can always mix in home cooked foods with your kibble or the canned food. And you can also, but if you're going to feed it by itself, you got to remember, you always, with home cooked food, you got to add calcium, sometimes vitamin E, sometimes a little safflower oil, cod liver oil, things like that, to make the food so it isn't deficient of vitamins and minerals, especially calcium. That's really important if you're not going to feed your dog raw, meaty bones, or in the crock pot diet like I do, the softened bones. But anyway, just thought I'd give you an ideas on how to score your dog's weight, and how to maybe try to take off some extra pounds to keep your dog healthier, because they can lose 2 years of life if they're obese. Anyway, have a great day.